Yo, hello everyone. We're kicking off the Crazyhouse World Championship 2025. I'm gonna quickly show you the bracket and then we're gonna jump into our match. So this is what it looks like. Apologies for all the ads and shit. Um, I'm first seed. I'm playing Evil Hamburger in the first round. It's a double elimination tournament here. And the format for this stage is 10 games of 3+2. Or best of 10, I should say. Um, just take a quick peek through the list here. Um, got a lot of strong names in here. But yeah, first match. So yeah, let's do it. Going 3+2. All right. So we're playing against the lowest seed in this tournament, number 32, but um, it won't be easy. Everyone here has qualified and everyone could be dangerous. This guy's especially good at chess. Okay, we're in. Um, all right. Well, let's start with some knight f6. Um, yeah, we can just play our normal e4, e5, especially since it looks like he's not going to be playing e5 on move 2. Um, so we'll just play our normal lines against him for now. d3. Main moves here, knight g5 and knight d5. h3 and other moves are a little bit inaccurate, I think, because they either allow black to play bishop g4 or knight a5, picking up this bishop. So I'm going to collect this bishop. Then I can put my newly acquired bishop here on h5, the annoying pin, and then it'll set me up well to get this knight on d4. Um, yeah, so we can mostly just react to his moves here. I have a bunch of improving moves like h6, bishop e6, maybe king h8 that I can play if he does something quiet. Um, so for example, here I think I want to play h6 to prevent bishop g5, wait for him to make another move here. Um, yeah. So, all right. I think he may want to bring the knight to g3, which is logical. I think I'll just go king h8. May have been better to do this without h6. But yeah, we can start taking on f3 now, since he's basically forcing me to. All right, so this is just asking for knight h4 or knight d4. Knight d4 forces the queen back to d1, but then maybe this knight will be targeted in the future with bishop e3. So I'm kind of feeling knight h4, especially because we're also looking at d2. Okay, so he goes queen e2. I'm looking to play stuff like knight takes g2, bishop h3, even d5 becomes a little more appetizing now that I have pieces around his king. Um, I think I'm going to start with a5 because I want to be able to create some piece trades on this side. Okay, so I think knight g8 makes a lot of sense here because he's gearing up an attack against h6. And if he goes knight g4 to continue, I may just chop that off. And then we'll see what the next plan of action is. Okay, f4. I think I should be happy to see that because he's weakening his king, he's weakening his dark squares a little bit. Um, but yeah, he's playing fast, he's playing good. I think I can keep trucking here with a4. trading these rooks. His king is pretty safe now. Queen is covering g2. Bishops all lined up nicely. I think I'm gonna just try and block his bishop here. I don't really have to worry about him going in on this g6 square quite yet. Now f4, knight h5, maybe I'm not too sure about, so I think I'm gonna start with knight f6. Now that this line is sort of blocked off, he can sack a piece, I guess. But then I may be able to get some counterplay on the king side. For example, I could take on e4, or maybe bishop d4. Then we're going to try to take on e4 here. If he takes on e7, then I'm going to go and take on g3. And then if he takes this, I can take here. I guess I do have to worry about maybe a queen check, but I'll just drop my pawn on h7. And then, yeah, so I dropped the pawn on h7. Yeah, I know I'm getting into some tactical complications here that I probably shouldn't. But I do have this tactic here, I think. Here I have rook h. Oh, I don't have a knight though. Okay. I guess I'm kind of glad that I used my bishop on d4, just because I don't have to worry about any stuff happening on g7. This is not a great start. I think bishop f6 is a little bit stronger than h6 just to potentially cover this e7 square. But yeah, my position should be objectively worse, probably losing. Yeah, so I didn't play this well. Now he's given me rook h1, but I think knight g3 may be stronger. I just need to check that I'm not dying here. I think I should be fine because my knight is covering the g6 square. So unless I'm mistaken, I should be able to just take this on h7, take on g6 twice. And if he tries to use the queen on h5, I can block on h6. But this was not a very controlled first game here. I believe I can just take this. But maybe it's just better to block. I block with rook. Yep. Again, since I'm covering g6, it's no issue. My king doesn't have to come out. My rook will be defending it. That's why I used the rook here instead of the pawn. I would rather not have my king come out unnecessarily. I still have deadly threats. Now I'm threatening to just win his queen for free. I'm threatening knight e2 with check. I'm threatening rook h1. So this one should be wraps. Queen h6. Can go pawn takes. Any check here, I can just block on g7. Yeah, so now I should be winning. His dark squares that he weakened with h3 and f4 came back to haunt him, but this was not a very well played game from me. I think I'm just going to go ahead and take with the pawn here. Just keep the f-file closed. I think both are winning, but this seems cleaner. After rook h5, I'll just block with the pawn on h6 and he should be out of checks. Okay. Now is the part where I have to prove my technique. I think it should be fairly easy. Just rook h1 and queen d2, cutting his king off. And then this should be main one. All right, first one down. All right. Interesting move order. Maybe e5 is better, but I'm not too sure. Okay, can definitely transpose into some e6 d6 line. I think e5 should be the move here, that if I remember correctly. I haven't checked my lines in a while, but I'm pretty sure this is what I remember. So after knight d5, I can take and maybe knight h5, or pawn h6. Both look really strong. And then if he had played knight g4, I would have gone queen g3. Okay, knight e4. Let's just say bishop e3 here. If he goes pawn f4, yeah, it threatens my bishop, but I'm going to have a devastating attack with hg and then queen at h8. So it should be all fine. And otherwise he doesn't really have a threat. For example, bishop g4. So I have the same idea here, just g7 and queen h8. So this should be killer. And um, he should just be losing now. Yeah, there's no way for him to protect this rook. Um, Not sure what the best he can do here is. This is not too great for him. This is not too great, although I guess he gets a queen in his hands. My pocket is empty, but when I take this, I'll get the rook back. And then if he drops his queen to block, it'll just be a free queen. Okay. Rook d8, I suppose, is the first thing to consider. King takes here. He drops a rook. I can drop bishop. Hmm. Not 100% clear what my plan of action should be. Bishop d3 just to finesse this knight is also a plan. I may just do that. Let's say he could take on g2 though. Maybe that would be a little annoying. Um, Taking this in bishop h6 or bishop g7 also looks reasonable, but yeah, I'm not sure. I think this makes the most sense because I'm only giving him a pawn. And then we can go ahead and scoop this bishop, then we can scoop c7. If he goes king e7, I also have this bishop drop on h4 that I think I'll throw in. And even if he goes g5 and all those pieces take on g5, um, he does have queen takes h5, but I think, okay, yeah. Now I should be able to just take some stuff. The question is what stuff? I think this makes a ton of sense. If he takes my rook, no problem. Let's scoop up e4. Um, yeah, this should be devastating. My king is super safe on d1. So for example, oh, okay. I was thinking I could win his queen here. Now I think he should just be mated, because if he steps up, knight d4 will be mate wherever he goes. And if he steps down, then e7 is mate. And if he gives his queen, then that's obviously not good for him. This, I just realized, is not mate. F5 is a cute move to take his queen. I'm leaning towards that right now if I don't see immediate mate with this. Here, drop on f4, king takes, g3. Actually, that should just do it, right? Yeah. Don't wanna, I don't know, play a longer variation if I just have forced mate. Alright, let's keep doing what we're doing. I think if he plays e5, I'll be happy to try and outplay in that position. And then yeah, I'll just try to do a little bit better in this e4, e5 thing. Bishop b5. Um, I don't remember exactly how I'm supposed to play this. I think I usually play bishop c5, um, but that may be wrong. Let's go bishop c5 and see what happens. I think bishop e7 is supposed to be okay as well. Yeah. If he grabs this, I just have bishop d4. I've got bishop h5. So everything here should be looking pretty nice. Um, yeah, and then I think I can just start blasting here. I'm playing this pretty quickly, but I'm pretty confident that this is good for me. Can just go knight g4 and try to scoop up this rook. We have some e3 ideas as well, taking on d1 and queen e1. Yeah. If I had a ton of pieces in hand, I would of course prefer to drop this knight, just give myself extra support. Um, just have those knights defending each other in case something happens. But yeah, in this position, looks fine to do it like this. Now let me think about my e3 idea. I take the queen, queen e1, queen f1, queen takes f1. Because rook takes f1, I have knight e2, but he has king takes f1. Then I would have to figure out something else. I guess I could take the rook there. If I get queen e1 and he plays bishop f1, then what can I do? Then e2 is going to be exposed. So let me just try e3 and see what happens. Not 100% sure this is correct, but the few lines I looked at looks pretty promising. Yep. Yeah, he doesn't take it. Okay. Now knight h5 looks pretty strong, maybe scooping up a bishop here. Um, can I do it right now? I also have this idea, but he can go pawn takes pawn. Then knight e2, queen e2. Running out of gas there a little bit. I can take this as well, but bishop takes and I'm not seeing anything. So I think maybe knight h5 is the best way to go. If he drops bishop on h4, I think I can just take g3. He won't be able to take because bishop f2 will mate him. And if he takes back with the bishop, then maybe I can start dropping the bishop on f2. Um, I think I played this wrong. I'm not sure. It feels like I don't actually have enough pieces to make this work, but we can still try. So here, I'm wondering how he takes back. If he takes with the c bishop, I can go. F2 still isn't that good. Being out of pieces here kind of sucks. I guess I can start blasting with knight h2. Um, this actually makes some sense because I'm just scooping up more pieces. I'm threatening f2. I'm threatening g3 and knight takes g3, and if his king comes out, then I should be able to get more material. Yeah, so it was not too good for him to take with the d pawn either to trade queens. Um, but now when I back up my knight, I have the additional threat of dropping on h2 as well as taking this rook. Okay, he's defended both. This makes sense. I think I should try and just attack again with knight f4. Don't see a big issue with that. I have some e2 ideas. Have some f2, h2 ideas. Obviously, this rook is hanging, and it'll be great if I get to take it. Because this pawn would be pretty devastating with a rook to support. Um, okay. This should just be bad to queen takes h4, but let me just calculate. Queen h4, bishop h4, pawn h2, king f1 forced, and then I can promote. It seems to be all the calculating I need at the moment. Actually, wait. Rook g1 is gonna mate no matter where he goes, right? Wait, king h1 is actually forced because here there's mate in 1. So now I just go rook g1, I take, I go queen h2, I go queen g2, I go f2, f1, and e2, or let me actually make sure I get this down. Queen h2 has to be my only move. Then queen g2, king e1, f2, king here, I promote. Yeah, that should just be mate no matter what. And if he takes here, of course, I can just drop that bishop on e2. Yeah. Actually, this is the cleanest. Okay. 3 down, 3 to go. All right. White, fairly clean game. Just knowing some theory here. He's going for e6, d6 again. Knight e7, knight d7. All right. I think the play here is probably to set up some light square initiative. Um, but I could go for the dark squares as well. I could just play it calm with bishop d3 and castling. But I think it's generally a good idea to try and attack. G6. All right, now knight G5 could be pretty strong because if he takes, I can just take on E6. So yeah, not sure what he plays here. I guess maybe knight B6. Um, hmm, maybe a little check for info. Yeah, he actually kind of got out of this fairly fine. I also gave him the D4 pawn, which is not ideal, but we'll just keep trucking. Yeah, my opening punishes have not been very good, to be honest. I need to kind of, I don't know, think a little bit more before making my moves. This was a little bit rash. Here, maybe I could have taken on f7. Actually, maybe taking on f7 was the correct play. Just go bishop b3 and pawn f5. But yeah, this bishop was probably just best on d3, and I could have played it slowly. This is an interesting move from him. I think I should just take it because he doesn't have a whole lot of follow-up. Yeah, and then probably queen takes. This gives my king some space and also makes a pretty big threat here. G6, I'm probably just going to back up. Taking on h7 is probably asking for a bit too much. Okay, what am I looking at here? I'm looking at this g7, h7 square. In order to make use of this g7 square, I would need to get rid of this bishop, so I'm considering knight e2. Knight e2, bishop f6, not really accomplishing a whole lot. Maybe I can take h7 there. Knight takes f7, also not completely feeling that one. Um, I guess his knights that his knight and bishop are sort of out of play, but his other pieces are kind of defending the king side pretty well. I'm gonna go knight e2. Because first off, if he moves his bishop back, then that means my ft square won't be as much of a problem. Um, okay. Rook f1, rook f2 is a decent idea. It depends on what he does. I guess if he steps back and I go for this, I'm losing some potential I have on the h file, but maybe just building up pressure on the f file is more relevant. Um, bishop f6, knight takes h7 um, is also an option. Okay, bishop e5. We can just throw in pawn d4, I think, because there's nothing really constructive he can do with no pieces. Is it better to put this pawn on f4? Maybe because it gives the knight more support, but also it may lock my bishop out of participating. I think d4 is better because it helps my bishop participate. Now I don't have to guard the b2 square. Okay. I completely missed that move. I guess we'll go back to f3. Kind of lucky I have this move. Defends d4 and the threat of f1 queen at the same time. If he takes, I can take back with the e knight now, and f1 will be covered. Yeah. Now he should be falling apart because my bishop can participate. He still doesn't have any pieces in action. So yeah, we'll just go bishop g5. I don't see a reason to use the new bishop um, at this point because I don't really think any of my squares here need more coverage. Like e3 maybe, but I don't really think that's going to make much of a difference. Queen takes g6 was maybe possible, but I think it's best to play this calmly. He basically has no threats on my king because my king is so safe. I remember seeing this idea just like a long time ago. People who were playing Bug and Crazyhouse, I would wonder how they're so safe every time. But somehow, like this king on d1, when you're normally developed, um, the opponent can't really do much to you if they don't have pieces. So I have a lot of options here. G7 is obviously going to win some material. Comes with a mate threat as well. Hard to pass that up. Knight f5 also nice because it saves the knight, and when I take back, I get another tempo on this knight. Knight could be very useful on c7 or g7, but I think it's best to go after the rook. Interestingly enough, queen takes h7 was a move. because taking the rook would come with some pretty big threats over here. But I don't like leaving my first rank too exposed. Yeah, now he's a bit dead. So obviously he has no threats on my own king, and if he takes back, then yeah, there's main one. Okay. 4 down, 2 to go. Could try some other openings maybe. Um, but I think just sticking to e4, e5 is safe and sane. Okay. See if he goes for knight g5 here. Okay. Guess in theory over here. Guess I could play the knight d4 line. But I am a little bit more comfortable with this knight a5 line. Bishop d3 is the chess move here. It's kind of funny that he goes for that. And then yeah, now moving the bishop anywhere should be good. Um, c5 makes sense. I guess it could run into b4 or knight e4 in the future. But it does look at f2, and for that reason I do kind of like it. I'm just going to try and play a little bit quiet and calm here. So I'll go bishop e7. H6 felt a little risky. I guess he doesn't have pieces, so maybe it's okay. But yeah, I think it's best to just finish development. Maybe at some point I can drop the pawn on f5 if I want to try and restrict his pieces. Or I can play h6. h6 is looking a little more attractive now. He won't be able to get many pieces to pound my light squares here. Yeah, so knight e4 makes a lot of sense, but now this opens up h3. The fact that he doesn't have a whole lot of pieces, like his knight on f3, for example, not covering h4, pawn on d2 still, he's not covering f4. So h3 is stronger than it would normally be here. Again, I don't totally remember the theory here, but yeah, it looks pretty nice for me right now. Queen h5. Okay. Is there a threat? Queen takes f7. I can go king takes. I'm a little bit worried actually after rook takes, pawn h7, knight g6, there could be a discovery. I don't think so though. And then h7, queen takes f7, same deal. Should not be too worried. Especially in that position, what I have is knight h3 check, knight f4 check, since his king is forced to go up. Then that knight will be covering g6 and I'll be free to take on f7. So I'm not too worried about any of this stuff. I'm sure he has his eye on queen takes f7. But yeah, his king is way too exposed. So he will never be able to do anything. And even if he gets knight g6, I'm pretty sure it doesn't do anything. So yeah, but no reason to test that theory. You can just go knight h3, knight f4, and then take on f7. And then he's losing. Yeah. Okay. One more. Just stick with e4 here. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'll probably try to actually get a better line out of this opening. Ooh, knight d7. Yeah, looks like he's just trying to play chess openings here. Let's think. Bishop b5 and knight b5 make a lot of sense. Bishop g5 also makes a lot of sense. In some crazy worlds, this stuff could also make sense. But yeah, I think like knight b5 is pretty good. I'm unsure what the right move is against the c5 in the advanced French, but yeah, I guess bishop b5 here should be good. Um, Knight b5, a6, knight d6. Not sure if that's correct or not. Maybe better to just go bishop f4 here. Keep that e5 pawn covered. Then I can just take back on d4. Not an issue. After knight c6, I think I will go bishop b5. Just gets ready to have some knights drop down in these squares. He'll never be able to capture on e5, which is nice. And after cd4, I'm thinking I take c6. Once again, I feel like I messed this up a little bit, but bishop e7 is too passive to be good. So I'll just take on c5. Yeah, taking c6 and knight h5 looks very reasonable. I could have also gone d6 with the idea to drop on c7, but I thought that maybe, he can just cover that square again. And d6 also potentially gives up the initiative. Now that I've locked him out of castling, it makes sense to just continue development normally because I know it'll be a little bit harder for him to get a playable position. I'm looking at knight takes g7 here. I guess this would be a pawn sacrifice of sorts because I would be only getting one pawn here, but I would have to give two pawns to get it back. But on the other hand, his king would be a little exposed. I guess I only have this one bishop in the action. It may just be best to back up here. If he goes bishop e7, I'm looking at d6. d6 looks pretty strong here. He can't get two pawns for the piece, so yeah, this looks pretty good. Yeah. Again, not the best opening punish. Okay, now knight d5, pawn c. Yeah, I don't think I converted any of these like openings in the best way possible, but we still have a good position here. Once we scoop up the queen, then opportunities just start rolling in. So bishop g5, knight g5, because a bunch of pawns will still be pretty dangerous. Um, got some c4 move to open up the d file. Um, even some knight e4 violence. Yeah. So this one should be reps. Okay. I believe that's it. Um, yeah. Okay. I guess I'll just post it in the forum. I hope they're, well, okay. Do I post scores in here? I hope he didn't make the score thread. Yeah. Well, whatever. I'll just put it in here. All right. And then yeah, let's just review these games real quick. Quick little post-mortem. All right. So this one was a little bit sketchy. I don't think I played this very well. Um, we knew that this opening was fine for us. Bishop h5, knight h2 is obviously pretty logical, if not a bit passive. H6 is okay. Yeah, d5. This is probably the moment to play d5. Now he doesn't have a lot of coverage on e4. I guess we have to check what happens if he tries to go after my pawn. But yeah, wow. I can just go bishop d6. He can't really do anything. So what if he just tries to play d4? Then I can take, take, and then knight d4. Yeah, okay. So I guess that's like the benefit of having, when you have bishops and your opponent has knights, it's usually pretty useful because you get to release the tension how you want. Yeah. Okay. This is fine. Bishop g6 actually made a little bit more sense. Just keep that bishop and keep his knights a little bit passive. Don't give him any pieces in hand. But yeah, I would have had to play this very slowly. Like rook g8, queen f8, bishop e6. Can't do anything super active yet while he has such good control over the center, so this would have been a pretty long game. Okay, knight h4, knight d4, about the same. Let's see what happens if I had gone knight d4, queen d1. What would the best route have been? Takes and pawn f4. This makes a lot of sense to get rid of that knight. Once I get that knight on e2, I can start blasting the rest of his king side. So for example, like, let's just say he plays like bishop d2 or something. And I can start getting rid of his kingside. See, yeah, knight takes g3. He'll be falling apart here. Especially that pawn is going to hurt on e2, but even if I didn't have the pawn, I'm sure my position would be very nice. I'm thinking knight h5 even. With bishop h4 ideas. Pawn f4. Also very nice. So yeah. Alright, let's see how the game continued. Bishop takes h3, good again with the idea of pawn f4. A5, yeah, a little bit too slow. I knew I wanted a little bit of flow coming in, just so I could get maybe that pawn on f4, restrict his bishop and everything. But yeah, I kind of misevaluated this. f4, good move from him, I think. a4, a little bit slow, but still not bad. g5 is good. Rook at b1 or a1 I didn't consider. Knight f6, yeah, it allows him to take on g5. I guess I could have dropped on f4, but I was afraid of knight h5. But now I can go knight f6. This is a little bit difficult to play, honestly. But no, not really. Yeah, my king is going up, but um, g3 and h1 are still as weak as they were in the game. So this is nothing to be afraid of. Okay, so he gets to take on g5. I give what yeah, it's a useful check, I think. Troll analysis, calling it a blunder. Knight takes e4, correct. Bishop h6, decent. Bishop h6 actually very strong here. Because here I'll be able to take this knight, of course. And otherwise, I guess if he takes h7, then then I can grab this pawn on e3. Missed that idea. f3, wow. Just keeps on trucking, huh? Knight takes, queen takes, knight d2, with pawn h2 as an idea. Yeah, this is really violent. I'm wondering actually about pawn g3 here. Oh, he can take on f8. Oh, queen e3, of course, it's pinned. Okay. Yeah, a lot of dynamics to look at here. Yeah, so I figured my position was a little bit worse here because I don't have the initiative yet, right? Like, I'm threatening to maybe take this rook, maybe, like, only after I take this rook will I be able to do some other stuff like e3, g3, make use of these squares. And so since he has the move and a lot more material, it should be a little bit worse for me. But it looks like the computer doesn't think it's too good. I also thought e7 was a good idea. Just drag this bishop away. Away from what? I don't really know. But yeah, this queen g3 move covers everything, covers g3, covers g5, covers e3, covers g2, attacks this knight. Pretty strong move using the queen like that defensively. And then black will sort of be forced back. I won't be able to use any of my pieces aggressively. Here, for example, my dark squares are already starting to feel a little bit soft because I only have one defender and it's hanging. And for example, if I played something here like pawn f6, he could take my knight or take on g7. I'm pretty sure taking on g7 would just be killer. Yeah. With this knight coming in and the knight in his hand. It's a pretty easy mate. Yeah, then boom, the knight lands on e7. Okay. Yeah, after rook h5, he lets me into g3. Of course, that is bad for him. All right. This one I had a nice attack. I messed it up. HG, I guess, yeah, computer does what computer does. It's not that easy, or sorry, it's not that difficult to see that this is nothing for black, but uh, I guess in a fast time control, I always tend to gravitate towards the option that doesn't have my king run around a bunch. Okay, this is really good. Was queen at g8 and rook at g8 here? Yeah, knight f6 also good. Wow, knight f6, rook e7. How does one see that? That is really nice. Forces off the queens. Yeah, that's very nice. I thought this was good. Do I have forced mate here? I must. So I actually misevaluated this. I forgot A, that I was getting a new knight for g7, and B, that my knight can come into e5. So neither of these options will work out for him. Um, okay. So this is obviously really good, yeah, but this is just killer anyway. Okay, perfect. Game 3. Okay, he plays bishop b5. I need to check this line. Yeah, I know that bishop e7 is generally the correct response against bishop b5. I know that a lot of times when you go bishop c5, they often get this bishop g5 pin on you, and it actually can be quite annoying when they go knight d5. Okay, so let's, for example, I'll just put these moves on the board. Let's say this happens. White is actually doing kind of nicely here, because when this knight comes into d5 and bishop takes on c6, then suddenly this e7 square lacks some protection. So sometimes this bishop on b5 is actually better than it is on c4. Okay, bishop c6, not too worrying. Yeah, bishop d6 makes a lot of sense, just going after this h2 pawn. I also have ideas of maybe taking this and taking e4. Uh, I wasn't... Hmm. I'll have to look at this a little bit because this doesn't actually look that scary, but maybe it is. And it's, I guess the main thing is that you can kind of play slow because it's hard for white to get the rest of his pieces mobilized. All right, yeah, even c5, c4, computer is saying. Okay, we take on f2, it's good. Knight g4 is good. e3 is a little bit too fancy. Of course, h4 here is just very nice because it just picks up the bishop. So for example, if he tries to defend it, we have this position where I have a bishop, then yeah, then I can start going in and he won't have a bishop for defense. Um, yeah, and then now he should be sort of cooked. After king h1, he obviously can't do that because it's check, and then here, I assume I just take this, and then knight could land here, this rook will hang at some point, and yeah, he doesn't have any attack against my own king because I have these f6, h6 squares covered, and he basically only has a queen. So yeah, if we imagine that he tries to make an aggressive move, knight h2, and then it looks like the rook will fall with check no matter what he does. So for example, king e2, I guess knight d4. Or does knight d4 throw it to king d3? Okay, yeah, maybe that's not the best idea. Bishop g4, he blocks. Then knight f4. That's a really nice idea. Forcing the block of the f-file. Okay, but now we're kind of getting lost in the sauce. Knight h5, good. Yeah, e3 a little bit too fancy. Knight takes h2, good. Maybe. This engine isn't very strong. It's also not like on a very high depth, so we take these suggestions with a grain of salt. But yeah, f2 is a nice way to gain a tempo on this rook. Would have forced the win of this rook no matter what, because I've just got so many threats on it. I guess I was maybe worried about something happening on h5, but of course this is nothing to worry about. I'll just pick up the rook and then the queen after with rook g5. Knight f4 is still good. After rook g3, I was planning to drop on a f2, I think, or maybe I was going queen h4. I don't totally remember. But yeah, I guess this would not have been too wise, because his bishop would be attacking my queen, and if I go queen takes g4, he's got knight drops to win it back. Um, so yeah, knight f4 was played a little bit too quickly, but thankfully he blundered. Yeah, and then mate. Okay, couple more games to go. Oops, e6, d6. This is the one where he played g6, and I sort of messed up. Yeah, bishop e6 here is actually pretty strong. I could have just gone f7 right away. I'm not sure how I missed that, to be honest. Like, I was looking entirely in that direction. I think I may even have seen it, you know, in my subconscious, low key. But yeah, kind of missed that one. This, of course, still really good for me. Hanging the pawn was kind of a gross blunder. But yeah, he kind of just gave the pawn right back. This is a decent idea, to be honest, but he doesn't have pieces to back it up, so it can't be done in this position. Okay, yeah, played the rest of this game pretty well. Yeah, but main thing, I guess, is bishop takes e6 is pretty strong in this position. And yeah, just going straight after the light squares is pretty strong as well. Yeah, not sure why I thought I needed bishop c4 in order to do all of this. But okay. All right, game 5. Yeah, the chess opening doesn't work too well. The main move here is knight takes f7, which there's a ton of theory in. Um, and then here I know that there's a line that some people like to play, like here, and then um, I forget if someone has played this against me before. Um, but I guess people have only played dc6 against me. So maybe this knight c3 thing is something to consider. Do I have... Oh, wait, I should include bullet. Okay, yeah. I mean, still everyone played d takes c6. Okay. Um, okay, I'm pretty sure knight d5 is the chess move, actually. So it's kind of interesting that that's the best move as well. Yep, h6 actually pretty strong, because white has no pieces to follow up with this attack, and my king always has like a bunch of space to run around, so I never have to worry about getting mated. But this is always fine. Yeah, and then knight e4, I think, all but sealed the deal for him, because now he's forced to trade pieces, and his king is the weak one, and then he goes in for this combination that doesn't work. So yeah, and this last game I think is pretty clean. Advanced French. Yeah, bishop b5, good. I knew this pattern from before. I was mostly worried about him dropping on c6 here. But yeah, no way I would have seen this idea of queen h5. Queen h5 and knight e6, forcing out g6. It's a crazy pattern. I don't think I would ever see queen h5, queen g5. Yeah, but okay. Yeah, bishop g5 also a good move. I was wondering about the chess move queen b6 here, actually. But I guess bishop b5 is strong here as well. Then queen d4, bishop c5, queen c5. Yeah, maybe this is findable, but an odd thing to go for in blitz, to be honest. I wonder what the most natural good move here is, but maybe that's something to analyze later. Okay. Definitely makes sense to take on c5 after he does this. I was wondering about this. Knight d4, queen d4, yeah, but these squares are a bit too weak, and he doesn't have a lot. Like, once he attacks my queen, I can just move it back, and he basically has nothing to stop my dark square onslaught here. So, yeah, I mean, c5, though the computer, I guess, kind of likes it in some lines, it is kind of hard to play. I had a lot of games against 12 teen in this. Like, I've got a ton of games in this against 12 teen and others, but yeah, yeah, it's not as weakening as it looks because there haven't been a lot of developments or trades yet. Yeah, okay. We continue. Knight h5. Maybe a little sus. I thought I would want to prevent him from castling. But yeah, if I go here, I guess he uses his bishop pretty strongly on g4 here. It's pretty dangerous, and I can't get rid of that too easily. So knight h5, maybe a little bit of an error. The other move I was looking at is d6, but I guess he can just castle to safety here. Yeah, I'm also really not doing that well because I only have one piece. And if I go here, then yeah, I'm starting to get in a lot of trouble, since my king is exposed and he's got these bishops, and I only have one queen. Not really useful in defense. Yeah. Okay. Knight h5, maybe better was just a castle. Then if he goes bishop g4, I don't really care because my knight hasn't been committed to h5 yet. So h3, for example. We get rid of his bishop. We still have a bunch of diags to use on his dark squares, and we have the flexibility of the knight for h5. Okay. Yeah. But as I played it in the game, I guess it was possible for him to just force the knight back with bishop g4 and take over the initiative. Okay, after he uses his bishop on f8, it's pretty much game over. He's committed like his one pocket piece to just defending here. And then my space advantage should be decisive. Yeah, he's sort of gotten this problem, I guess, of using all his pocket pieces and not really having good moves to make here. Yeah, so now he um Doesn't have a whole lot of moves, because once I get that queen, as I said while I was commentating, he'll probably just get mated soon. Okay, well, knocked out round one, first match of the entire tournament. I may cover exciting matches, uh, but I'll probably just focus on covering my own matches until the later rounds, that is. But yeah, nice to play some Crazy House again. I will see you guys in the next match.